Hello, everybody. Today is May 7th. I don't have a drive today. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the charges that were filed earlier this week. I believe it was on Tuesday, against the woman who leaked the arrest affidavit to online sources, and then it went all over the place, and then it was just leaked one day prior to it being made public. Anyway, besides talking about that, then I will go into a little discussion about the background of that, and then an explanation again of the charges that Letecia is facing, because I have noticed in the forums a lot of people are confused about what the charges actually mean. Some of them think that they mean that all three weapons were definitely used, etc. Anyway, beginning with this Tuesday, an Adams County woman is charged with misdemeanor criminal misconduct after she allegedly leaked Letecia Stauch's arrest affidavit to a website that tracks crimes. The leak occurred on April 2nd. Sherry Farstveit, age 50, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, age 53, is due in court on July 6th. If found guilty, she faces up to 1 year in jail, a fine of up to $1,000, or both. And Senior Deputy DA Michael Allen, who is the lead prosecutor in the Stauch case, held a press conference on Tuesday, on May 5th, and he stated that he does not believe that there will be any ramifications in the case, due to the leak. And Letecia's court dates are still June 5th and June 8th, and I was on the site today, and there haven't been any changes or additions to the dockets or to the court documents as of this date and time. Anyway, a little bit of the history of that arrest affidavit is that the prosecution had no objections to unsealing the arrest affidavit. The defense didn't want it unsealed, and they had actually even filed a paper regarding it, saying that they had wanted it to stay sealed, and that was not approved. And the document is a public document because the arrest did take place and the charges were being filed. That makes it a court document which is accessible to the public once it's unsealed, because it gets sealed for a variety of reasons. And in this particular case, the prosecutor was wanting it to be unsealed to the parents first, so that Gannon's parents could process what all was in there prior to being released to the public. So the original plan had been for the affidavit to be released to Gannon's parents on April 2nd, and then released to the public on April 10th. But when on the day that it got made available to Gannon's parents, it was also made available to people who have a subscription to the court's services, where they can get court documents. And this is probably how Ms. Farstveit managed to get in there, because she is a paralegal, and so she had a login to access judicial records. Anyway, the document ended up being released free to the public on April. It was to be on April 10th. It ended up being released on April 3rd. And the document, called Order Granting Motion to Unseal the Affidavit of Probable Cause in Support of Arrest. I don't know if you can see that. But anyway, in it outlines the defense's objections to it. So on the second page, in the third paragraph, it says, defendant argues, without reference to any specific facts contained in the probable cause affidavit, that unsealing the affidavit is likely to lead to disclosure of information to the public that may be confidential, privileged, or ultimately inadmissible at trial, including statements made by Ms. Stauch. And then in the next paragraph, it says, defendant also argues that release of information to the public could jeopardize the defense's ability to effectively conduct an independent investigation. Again, however, defendant fails to provide any evidence or even one concrete example of how that might occur in this case. And in the paragraph after that, there's a specific sentence that it says, the potential prejudice to defendant's right to a fair trial is speculative at best. And in the final paragraph of the page, it ends up going on to say, the defendant has failed to establish that release of this document would be contrary to the public interest or would otherwise pose a substantial probability of harm to the fairness of the trial. The defendant has also failed to establish that to the extent any harm would result from the release of the affidavit, the continued suppression of the affidavit would prevent such harm. Stated another way, there have already been media stories regarding the incident of which the defendant is accused. In fact, the defendant herself has been interviewed by news agencies regarding the matter. And so it was decided that it would be released to the public. There's next page. And the page where it was ordered released. Anyway, and then we know that Letecia really didn't want that released because then she had also filed that document that we had went over in the previous video where she, or maybe it was 2 videos ago, she wanted sanctions filed against the prosecution office because she was upset that the location of the body being found, mention of a suitcase, etc., had been known about the finding of Gannon's body, and she was complaining that an overseas newspaper had been reporting that, and she complained about the leaked affidavit, etc., and that was all basically thrown out of court. They explained that she didn't have a leg to stand on any of those things because the gag order, I guess is what it's called, was for the prosecution and the prosecution team, etc., and that the people that she's complaining about are not, accountable to that court order. So anyway, obviously she didn't want this stuff put out in public, or she did want it out in public and thought that making a big stink about it would put more noise out there, more talking, etc. I don't really know how she thinks or what she's thinking at this point. I haven't really gotten enough yet to be able to make any kind of judgment as to what her thought processes are. Anyway, so now to the explanation of the charges. Okay, there's 13 charges altogether. There are 2 first-degree murder charges. The first one is for premeditated murder, and the second one is for the murder of a child under the age of 12 by a person in a position of trust. And one of the reasons to have 2 murder charges is to get the maximum sentence allowable when the conviction comes in. Or if somehow someone on the jury decided that it wasn't premeditated murder, they would still have the murder of a child under the age of 12 by a person of trust on the table. So basically all these charges that are filed are all so that no matter what, she's going to get convicted of something, pretty much. So count 3 is child abuse resulting in death, and to me that charge, to find guilt for that, is that the person unlawfully, feloniously, knowingly, or recklessly caused an injury to or permitted to be unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat of injury to the life or health of a child, namely Gannon Stauch, and engaged in a continued pattern of conduct that resulted in cruel punishment, mistreatment, or an accumulation of injuries that resulted in the death of the child. And then count 4, tampering with a deceased human body, and that just alleges destroyed, mutilated, concealed, removed, or altered a human body or part of a human body or human remains with intent to impair its or their appearance or availability. And then count 5, tampering with physical evidence, is destroyed, mutilated, concealed, removed, or altered physical evidence with intent to impair its severity or availability. And now the ones that are getting a lot of people hung up and trying to figure out how they would work into the different scenarios. They're the special enhancers. Okay, and the first 3 special enhancers are that the person used or possessed and threatened to use a deadly weapon during the commission of, or the attempted commission of, or the conspiracy to commit, or the immediate flight from the offense of murder in the first degree. And it's the murder in the first degree after deliberation. They're related to the first count of murder. And then specifically count 6 is a firearm, count 7 is a blunt instrument, and count 8 is a knife or other sharp instrument. And as I said, you could use or possess and threaten to use any of these in the commission of the crime or in the flight from committing the crime. Count 9 is crime of violence during the commission, attempted commission of, conspiracy to commit, or immediate flight from the crime of murder in the first degree after deliberation, as charged in count 1, the first murder count. Unlawfully caused the death of Gannon Stauch, a person not a participant in the crime. That's a charge in itself also. And then the special enhancers for the second count of murder are with unlawfully used or possessed and threatened to use a deadly weapon during the commission of, the attempted commission of, conspiracy to commit, or the immediate flight from the offense of murder in the first degree of a child under the age of 12. As charged in count 2, the second murder count. And then those are counts 10, 11, and 12, which are firearm, blunt instrument, and knife or sharp instrument. And once again, that's she either used or threatened to use these weapons in either committing the crime, planning to commit the crime, or in her flight from justice. And then count 13, crime of violence during the commission, attempted commission, conspiracy to commit, or immediate flight from the crime of murder in the first degree, child under the age of 12, and that's related to the second murder count. Unlawfully causing the death of Gannon Stauch, a person not a participant in the crime. And so those are the charges that she's facing. She's going to be in court in June, and hopefully I'll be able to be in the court. If not, I'll be right outside the court to get the first reports in, and I will share that with you. And thank you for watching. And in my next drive, I believe I've already got it filmed, and I went to look at some of the gas stations that were on the witness list. Their addresses were listed, and once again, they're all in the north end of town. And it's beginning to look like Letecia had, some sort of second life or something like that up there in the north end of town. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you very much. Please comment, like, and subscribe, share, etc. And talk to you later. Bye bye.